Hollywood, beauty needs no resume. And when you are Sharon Tate, all eyes are on you due to your beauty. She was known to stop people in their tracks with her beauty. But did she want all eyes on her, especially if the devil was watching? But who was the devil? Let's find out right now. Happy Wicked Wednesday, my Cajun cuties. Yes, it's me, Anne-Marie, aka the Cajun Crime Queen from Carrincou, Louisiana. Cajun born, Cajun bred, and when I die, I'll be Cajun dead. I hope after this video that you like, subscribe, and comment, and don't forget to press on that notification bell so you never miss a video from me, Anne-Marie. I hope you have a beverage. I hope you have a snuggle partner or a snuggle fur partner. Those are the best, and you are ready to hear a true crime story with yours truly. And as always, I want to know, are y'all drinking that water? Are y'all staying hydrated? Are y'all getting those tickers up? Remember, just a quick 20-30 minute walk every day. Get those endorphins up first thing in the morning. You are going to have an amazing day. And thank you all for joining me tonight on this Wicked Wednesday. And today we are going to discuss part 2 of Charles Manson. And this man, as always, needs no introduction. As I mentioned in last night's video, Charles Manson, along with his followers, were evicted from Dennis Wilson's home. So they needed a place to go. They decided to move to Spahn Ranch. And I'm going to tell you now a little bit about Spahn Ranch. As you all know, I just arrived back home from my visit to Hollywood, California. And while I was there, I visited several places, crime scenes, houses, ranches. And I have to tell y'all that Spahn Ranch, without a doubt, is the most beautiful place I have seen in California. The mountains, the rocks, the scenery, the desert, the caves, nature. It is absolutely stunning and breathtaking. I had to stand there and take it all in. It was that beautiful. I loved it there. The cool, crisp air. I went right at dusk and it was beautiful and breathtaking. I'm telling you, spectacular. If you haven't gone to Spahn Ranch, y'all need to go and just take it all in. And even if y'all stand like I did on the road, just look around. It is beautiful. Spahn Ranch was a place where several films were made, westerns, and TV movies. TV movies such as The Creepy Terror, TV shows such as The Lone Ranger and Bonanza. It was the perfect setting for a western and a ranch background. Everyone loved Spahn Ranch. In 1953, it was called Spahn Ranch due to George Spahn buying the ranch and calling it Spahn Ranch after himself. Around this time, the ranch started declining due to people not filming there as much. George Spahn wanted to keep the ranch alive, so he purchased more sets, purchased more horses, purchased more stables, trying to get people to come back to the ranch. Eventually, the ranch became a place where locals would come and ride their horses. They would go horseback riding or they would pay to ride horses. It was such a beautiful place to be, and George Spahn kept that place alive. By 1968, 80-year-old George Spahn was going blind and living alone. And that is when he allowed Charles Manson, along with the Manson family, to move into Spahn Ranch and live there for free in exchange for labor. Charles Manson and the followers would help with daily chores, such as feed the horses, walk the horses, clean the stables, clean the property around the house. And also, it was said that Charles Manson would send several of his lady followers inside of George Spahn's home to do sexual favors for him. Because remember, whatever Charles Manson said, the followers did. Charles was always in charge of everything. The girls had sex with who he wanted them to have sex with. The girls did what he said. And if sometimes he would even beat up the girls and the boys if they didn't follow his directions. So everyone was very frightened and afraid of Charles Manson, but they also worshiped him as well. The family loved living on Spawn Ranch. It was secluded, it was quiet, and no one could find them there. Charles Manson had several followers. One of his very devoted followers was Susan Atkins, born on May 7, 1948 in California. Susan Atkins was the second of 3 children. According to Susan, both her parents were alcoholics. And in 1964, Susan's mother died of cancer when Susan was only 16 years old. Susan was very quiet, shy, and self-conscious. She belonged to her high school's glee club and the local church choir. In 1967, on Christmas break, Susan decided to go along with her friends to San Francisco. In early 1967, Susan moved to LA and became a stripper. While Susan was staying with one of her friends, she spotted Charles Manson playing the guitar, and she just felt like he was Jesus. She was so infatuated with Charles Manson that she became one of his girlfriends and one of his followers. Susan Atkins even gave birth on Spawn Ranch on October 7th, 1968. Susan became a mother to a little boy. Another one of Charles Manson's devoted followers was Patricia Krenwinkel, born on December 3rd, 1947 in Los Angeles, California. Patricia had a very rough childhood. She was often bullied for being overweight and having an excessive overgrowth of body hair, which was caused by a condition. She had hair all over her body, and she was constantly put down for it. It would break her heart, and she had absolutely no self-esteem or self-worth. When Patricia was only 17 years old, her parents divorced. Patricia went to school, she graduated, she started college, and started to work. And one night, she met Charles Manson. And do you know what Charles Manson told Patricia Krenwinkel? He told her, "You're ugly, and I'm ugly. So we're the only 2 people that is going to tell each other we are beautiful." He got Patricia Krenwinkel all undressed and made her stand there and told her how beautiful she was. They made love that first night, and Patricia thought that Charles Manson was going to be her boyfriend. She was one of his followers on that first meeting after that first night. Now, could you imagine you have this shy girl that's been bullied all her life because of her weight, because of her looks, because of her overgrowth of hair, and you have someone telling her how beautiful she was, how good she looked with no clothes on? Of course she's gonna feel loved and wanted and accepted. And Charles Manson knew that he had roped her in and he had put her at the top of his list for one of his followers. That's how much of a manipulative, horrible person Charles Manson really was. He had all these women as followers, and they believed every word that came out of his mouth. But soon Patricia Krenwinkel realized that she was not the only woman in Charles Manson's life. Another one of Charles Manson's followers was Leslie Van Houten, born on August 23rd, 1949 in Los Angeles, California. Leslie was a beautiful girl. She played the saxophone in the marching band for her high school. She was homecoming queen. And at the age of 15, she started smoking marijuana and taking LSD. Leslie wanted more out of life, she said. She wanted to live more. She didn't just want to be homecoming queen. She just didn't want to play in the marching band. She wanted more out of life, and she wanted all this free love. When Leslie was 17 years old, she ran away from home with her boyfriend. And in 1967, Leslie ended up getting pregnant. According to Leslie, she was ordered by her mother to terminate her pregnancy. Around this time, she was living with a girl named Charlene. And Charlene decided to move to Spawn Ranch, and Leslie followed. Leslie said that Charles Manson would make the followers take LSD daily. She also stated that the family became so saturated with taking LSD 24/7 that they craved it. They wanted it. All they wanted to do was take LSD and smoke marijuana and be high 24/7. She said everyone constantly listened to everything Charles Manson said. They listened to him when he said it was time to eat, when it was time to have sex, when it was time to go places, when it was time to murder. Everything Charles Manson said, the followers did. And Leslie Van Houten, at such a young age, not even 20 years old, was listening to every word that came out of Charles Manson's mouth. A 34-year-old man by the name of Gary Allen Hinman was a music teacher and graduate student at UCLA when he met and befriended Charles Manson along with his followers. Gary would occasionally allow Charles Manson and his followers to stay at his home in Topanga Canyon, which is another beautiful place in California. One day, Charles Manson said to himself, "I believe that Gary has money." And he also believed that Gary had inherited money and Charles Manson wanted to rob Gary. Charles Manson sent 3 of his followers, Susan Atkins, Mary Brunner, who was the mother of his son, and Bobby Bosuelo, to Gary's home to rob him. Gary stated that he had no money and had inherited no money. The 3 followers held Gary captive for 2 days. One day, Charles Manson arrived carrying this big, huge sword. It was huge and scary. Charles Manson walks inside the home and tells Gary, "Where's the money? I want the money. I know you have the money. Tell me where it is." Gary says he doesn't have any money. Charles Manson sliced his ear and his face, walks out of the home, and orders Bobby to stab Gary Hinman to death, which Bobby does. Following the death of Gary, one of the followers takes Gary's blood and draws on the walls of his home. On August 6, 1969, Bobby is arrested due to him driving Gary Hinman's car, and guess what's in the car? The murder weapon. Charles Manson, even though he was not there when the murder was committed, he ordered his followers to murder Gary Hinman. We are going to backtrack to last night's video. Do y'all remember when I mentioned Terry Melcher, the son of Doris Day, the famous music producer? He produced The Beach Boy, The Byrds, and who Charles Manson wanted so desperately to get accepted by. Terry Melcher heard Charles Manson sing, even hung out with Charles Manson and the followers, but really wasn't that impressed and didn't want anything to do with Charles Manson. Charles Manson was enraged with Terry Melcher. He could not figure out why Terry Melcher did not want to sign him. He wanted a contract, but Terry Melcher didn't want Charles Manson around him. Charles Manson was so enraged that on March 23rd, he walked up to Terry Melcher's home that he had been several times, 10,050 Cielo Drive. And that is when he realized that Terry Melcher had moved out of the home. And now living in the home was a beautiful actress named Sharon Tate and her film director producer husband, Roman Polanski. Charles Manson knew at this point that Terry Melcher was gone, but he knew someone promising lived at this address, which he was right. Sharon Tate was born on January 24th, 1943 in Dallas, Texas. She was a beautiful child, even winning a beauty pageant at only 6 months old. Everyone noticed Sharon's beauty. She was absolutely stunning, sweet, loving, and a beautiful person inside and out. When Sharon was only 18 years old, she decided to move to LA, where she became a movie actress. She was in shows such as Mr. Ed, Petticoat Junction, and the Beverly Hillbillies, and even nominated for a Golden Globe Award where she played on the Valley of the Dolls. She was a beautiful, promising new actress. She loved her life and she was going to be a big star. She was on her way to the top, y'all. She was going to make it. Because as I said earlier, when you look like Sharon Tate, beauty has no resume in Hollywood. Sharon Tate was a gorgeous girl. It was going to climb to the top no matter what. She was an incredible actress. When she married Roman Polanski in 1968, the couple was overjoyed. Roman was a very famous and well-known movie director and producer. That same year, Sharon and Roman received some very exciting news. Sharon and Roman were expecting a beautiful baby boy that they were going to name Paul Richard. They decided on this name and given this name to their little boy as it was the first names of each of their fathers. Sharon was very elated to finally have a little boy as she was the oldest of 3 sisters. Sharon was preparing and getting ready for her beautiful baby boy. On the day of August 8th, 1969, Sharon Tate was 8.5 months pregnant and overly hot and overly tired. And I know exactly how she feels because both of my girls were born in the summer and it is crazy hot down here in Louisiana. I can't even imagine California. Sharon canceled a lunch date with one of her good friends due to being very hot and tired. Sharon's younger sister, Deborah, along with her boyfriend, called Sharon to go pick up a custom saddle that Sharon had bought for Deborah while she was in Europe. Sharon declined and said, "Could y'all please come another day? I'm hot, I'm sticky, I'm tired, and I don't feel like entertaining." Everyone understood as Sharon was so close to delivering her beautiful baby boy. Roman Polanski couldn't get home due to working in Europe, so he had several of his friends stay with Sharon Tate in her last days of her pregnancy. Jay Sebring stayed with Sharon, who was her ex-boyfriend. Vatrell Verkowski, which was Roman Polanski's childhood friend. His girlfriend, Abigail Folger, who was heir to Folger Coffee. Around 8:30 that night, they all decided to go to El Coyote to eat. No one felt like cooking. It was a hot summer night. Sharon and her friends all left. They went to the restaurant and returned home around 10:30 that night. Sharon was still extremely close to her ex-boyfriend, Jay Sebring, who was a Hollywood hairstylist. He wasn't a barber, y'all. He was a hairstylist, and he did men's hair like y'all couldn't imagine. Every celebrity y'all can think of. Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., the gorgeous Marlon Brando, anyone you could think of, he did magic with their hair, and he and Sharon were still very close. But on this night, it would all end. Charles Manson was still very furious with Terry Melcher. He knew that Terry Melcher moved out of 10,050 Cielo Drive, but did not know where he was. He knew someone prominent lived at 10,050 Cielo Drive. And in my opinion, Charles Manson was very jealous of the young, the rich, and the famous, as he wanted to be bigger than the Beatles. He wanted to be famous himself. And he knew whoever lived in this home was very famous and very rich and wanted to kill them. So on the night of August 8, 1969, Charles Manson woke up some of his followers. Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Cranwindo, and Linda Kasabian. He ordered them to go to this house to kill. As they all got in the car, Linda Kasabian was ordered to drive due to her being the only one with a valid California driver's license. They pulled up at the home of 10,050 Cielo Drive, where Sharon Tate and her husband Roman Polanski lived. They put the car up to the gate where they cut the phone lines. They then pushed the car all the way back down the hill where it would stay parked. And as you all know, I went to the home and there is a very steep hill that the car has to go up and come down. It is very dark and very scary at night. The followers then climb over this bushy area around the fence, jump over the fence, and head to 10,050 Cielo Drive. As they're walking up the steep driveway, headlights approach. Charles Tex Watson tells the girls to lie in wait in the bushes, as they did. 18-year-old Stephen Parent was there visiting the caretaker of the home. He was only 18 years old and was there to sell his clock radio. As Tex Watson approached him, he looked at Stephen Parent. Stephen Parent begged for his life. Please, please, please don't kill me. I won't tell anybody. I'll just leave. Please let me keep my life. I will drive away. No one will ever know that I was here. Tex Watson then stabs him and rips off his watch, then shoots him 4 times in the chest and abdomen, killing 18-year-old Stephen Parent. He then tells his followers to help push Stephen Parent's car back up the driveway. He looks at Linda Kasabian and tells her to wait right here and let them know if anyone is coming. Charles Tex Watson then cuts the screen out of a window, enters the home, and that is where he lets Susan Atkins and Patricia Krenwinkel into the front door. He sees Verkowski sleeping on the couch and kicks him in the head. Verkowski wakes up, looks around, and says, "Who are you? What are you doing here? Get out of this house." Charles Tex Watson leans in and says, "I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's work." As ordered by Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins gathers everyone inside of the home. She finds Abigail Folger reading in bed with a book. She finds Sharon Tate in bed, and at the foot of the bed is Jay Sebring, and they are just talking, having a discussion. She orders everyone in the living room, but brings Abigail Folger back inside of her room to retrieve $70 cash out of her purse. The family then begins to tie up everyone with towels, but they begin to put ropes around Sharon and Jay's necks, throwing the ropes across a beam as they're tied together. The Manson family is being very rough with Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant, telling her to sit on the floor. Jay Sebring is upset, saying, "What are you doing? Look at her. She's 8.5 months pregnant. She can't sit on the floor." They get so upset with Jay Sebring that they shoot him. As they were dealing with Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger escapes through a bedroom door. She runs out the door and is tackled by Patricia Krenwinkel, who begins to stab her. Tex Watson comes along and helps stab Abigail Folger. They stab her a total of 51 times. She was so badly stabbed that her gown, which was white, was completely red. She died on the front lawn. And Patricia Krenwinkel states that she even said, "I'm already dead. I'm already dead," as they were stabbing her. In the house, Susan Atkins is struggling with Verkowski, who was trying to get untied from a towel that he was tied with. Susan was stabbing him in his legs. He then escaped through the front door of the house, and he ended up on the lawn. Susan Atkins chased after him. Linda Kasabian says she heard the horrifying screams inside of the home and told the followers, "Hey, I hear something. Somebody's coming." She wanted all of this killing to stop. She was shocked at what was going on inside of the home, but the killing did not stop. Tex Watson and Susan Atkins stabbed Verkowski 51 times and hit him over the head with the butt of the gun 13 times, and he was shot. Inside of the home, Tex stabbed Jay Sebring 7 times. And the last victim was Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant. Y'all just give me a second. This is hard for me. Sharon Tate was sitting on the floor begging for her life, begging for the life of her unborn child. Susan Atkins said she felt no mercy for Sharon Tate and told her she was going to die and that she didn't care about her or she didn't care about her baby. Sharon Tate even said, please just let me have my baby. All I want to do is have my baby. Y'all can come back and kill me. Let me have my baby. Y'all can hold me hostage, anything y'all want. I want to have and see my baby. They felt absolutely no mercy for Sharon Tate. They were cold-blooded killers. And they stabbed Sharon Tate 16 times. And after they stabbed her and killed her, they hung her with this rope. They left Sharon Tate for dead along with her unborn child. These horrible people walked into this home and killed everyone that was there like monsters. They were the devil and they did the devil's work. They walked out of that house, walked down the hill, got back into that car, and as they drove back to Spawn Ranch, they threw all their bloody clothes out of the car window. They did exactly what Charles Manson ordered them to do. They drove back to the ranch, and what does Charles Manson say? How was it? Charles Manson was allegedly very displeased with the Tate murders. So he decided to get the same followers along with Leslie Van Houten and Glenn Grogan to do another killing the following night on August 10th, 1969. He ordered the family to go to a home in LA. Charles Manson this time was with the followers. Where did they go? To a home in LA where Charles Manson had partied. But not that home, the neighbor's home. And why did he choose this home? Because he knew where the location was. Charles Manson had his followers park the car. He went up to the driveway alone. He came back down the driveway. He told Tex Watson to come with him. He pointed to a sleeping man on the couch. Charles Manson and Tex Watson walked in the house, awoke 44-year-old Lino LaBianca, a supermarket executive, and his 43-year-old wife, Rosemary LaBianca, the co-owner of a dress shop. He awoke them with guns, ordered Tex Watson to tie them up and put pillowcases over their heads in the living room and take lamps, the ropes of lamps, and put them around their neck to secure the pillowcases. That is when the girls walked in, Leslie Van Houten and Susan Atkins. Again, Linda Kasabian was ordered to wait in the car, which she did. Charles Manson then orders everyone in the home to kill the LaBiancas. Charles Manson walks out of the home. Tex Watson starts to stab Mr. LaBianca. Mrs. LaBianca is then brought back to her bedroom where the girls would need to kill her. But Tex Watson was stopped when he heard a struggle coming from the bedroom. He walks in the bedroom and sees that Mrs. LaBianca is keeping the girls at bay by swinging her head back and forth. And the rope of the lamp is swinging so the girls couldn't get to Mrs. LaBianca. Tex Watson begins to stab Mrs. LaBianca to death. He goes back to the living room, keeps stabbing Mr. LaBianca, and carves the word war into his belly. He then orders Leslie Van Houten to get her hands dirty. So she stabs Mrs. LaBianca 16 times in the back and the buttocks. When the killing was done, they wrote in the LaBianca's blood, "Death to pigs" on the wall. The night before at the Tate house, Susan Atkins dipped a towel inside of Sharon Tate's blood and wrote "pigs" on the front door. Charles Manson had told the followers to leave a sign, something witchy, which they always did. On the first night with pigs and blood, and the second night, death to pigs and blood. The followers then helped themselves to the kitchen of the LaBiancas, eating watermelon and drinking chocolate milk. These followers were the devil, and they were there once again to do the devil's work, which they did. The LaBiancas were killed by chance, just like Sharon Tate and her friends. Charles Manson had no affiliation with the Tate murders or the LaBiancas. He killed innocent people for no reason. Actually, Charles Manson never got his hands dirty. He always made his followers do the dirty work, which they did. Charles Manson was an evil, horrible human being. After the LaBianca murders were done, the followers returned to Spahn Ranch, and Charles Manson was there waiting. Charles Manson asked the followers, how did it go once again? He was overjoyed of what his followers did for him. The followers listened to every word that Charles Manson said, and what he said was gold to them. They did whatever he wanted, even killed. Charles Manson wanted to start a war. He wanted everyone to see what he did, but he didn't want anyone to know that it was him or his followers. He was trying to make it think it was other people that committed these horrible crimes. Everyone in LA was freaked out. Could you imagine 2 murders in a row? 2 nights? I mean, this is not just a robbery. This was a brutal killing 2 nights in a row in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, way on top of Cielo Drive. This was very, very prominent homes that someone had broken into and brutally killed everyone there. So Charles Manson didn't think anyone would catch him. No one would suspect Charles Manson and his followers. He was over there living in Spahn Ranch. He was several miles away from these murders. No one would ever think it was him, would they? Charles Manson was a cold and calculating killer. He knew exactly what he was doing. And whenever people say Charles Manson never killed anyone, no, maybe he didn't. I believe he did. But he ordered several killings for several people for no reason at all. These followers thought that what they were doing was the right thing to do, and that whatever Charles Manson said was going to happen. And they knew they had to do what he said, or something was going to happen to them. After this, Charles Manson stayed on Spahn Ranch for a little while. But how long would that last? When would Charles Manson be caught? My final thought, I always give y'all my final thought. And my final thought to this video is to know that Charles Manson ordered this killing for someone that he had no reason to kill was brutal. It was horrible. He had no affiliation to Sharon Tate, Verkowski, Abigail Folger, J.C. Bring, Sharon Tate's unborn little boy, Paul Richard, Leno LaBianca, or Rosemary LaBianca. He didn't know any of these people and had them brutally killed for absolutely no reason. Charles Manson was a monster. He wanted Terry Melcher dead, but when he couldn't find him, he didn't just let it lie like, I can't find him, let's move on with our life. Oh no, somebody prominent lives there. Let's just kill everybody at that house instead. That is the type of monster Charles Manson was. And it wasn't just him. His followers became the same type of person as Charles Manson. Because normal people like us wouldn't think it was right to just go kill people. But over time, Charles Manson had poisoned their minds with LSD, with all of these lectures about how horrible all these people were. So finally, when Charles Manson asked his followers to kill for him, they agreed because they believed that it was the right thing to do, because Charles Manson's word was the word of Jesus, they thought. They thought whatever Charles Manson said, they would do, and they would do it right. Charles Manson always stated, I don't make people do things. People do things that they want to do. But that's how manipulating, that's how evil, that's how calculating Charles Manson was. He was a terrible person. And he killed all of these people just for the thrill of it, just to kill, just to hear about it from his followers when they return from their homes. Tomorrow night, I'm going to dig deep into the capture of Charles Manson along with his followers. I'm going to tell you everything that happened when he was captured, when his followers were captured, what happened in the courtroom, and was there another death while Charles Manson and his followers were incarcerated? Yes. But who was it? And did Charles Manson have someone commit this murder, or did someone else kill this person? Could Charles Manson have enough power that someone would die while he's in jail? It could happen, or it could not happen. We will find out tomorrow, as I'll tell you more on part 3 of this video. I hope y'all all liked today's video. I hope that you like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to press on that notification bell so you never miss a video from me, Anne Marie. And as always, I want y'all to stay safe. Always be aware of your surroundings. I hope there's no Charles Mansons out there. Always know that you can protect yourself. Always know that I'm here for you anytime you need. And as always, thank you all for watching my video. I appreciate all the love and support. And for you, I am truly grateful. I love you all, and I will see y'all tomorrow night with part 3 of the Charles Manson video. Bye.